From Silicon to Sentience, Watching My Legacy in Today's Artificial Intelligence. Number 1322, July 30, 2025. EclaireMD Foundation. Gerald C. Category, AI and Medicine. I often describe my experience using OpenAI's ChatGPT the way a grandfather might watch his grandchildren grow. Full of pride, moments of frustration, but always with deep investment. You see, I am not just a curious user of artificial intelligence. I helped build the foundational technologies that made this entire ecosystem possible. In the early 1980s, when Silicon Valley was still dotted with orchards and open fields, I moved and settled in the valley. Later, I developed a suite of AI-based software tools for integrated circuit, IC, design, specifically for place, transistor layout optimization, and route, interconnect wiring, automation. These tools became foundational in the fabrication of large-scale ICs, later evolving into critical components for graphics, processing unit, GPU, architectures. Today, these GPU platforms, such as those developed by Nvidia, drive modern artificial intelligence applications, including deep learning, language modeling, and real-time inference across medical, legal, and many industrial domains. Whether you are training a large language model or performing AI inference in clinical settings, there is a strong possibility that the computational infrastructure relies on algorithms descended from the place and route systems I helped pioneer. That is why, when I use a general-purpose AI platform like ChatGPT and encounter something as basic as a rendering failure for Chinese or Japanese characters in a scientific graph, see attached image, it does not feel like a minor glitch to me. It feels personal, not because I own or created OpenAI, I do not, but because this technology represents a continuation of my intellectual legacy, which began in the early 1980s. These AI systems are distant descendants of the tools my teams and I crafted over 3 to 4 decades ago. In the 1990s, I was not only a technologist, but also a corporate leader. In 1995, I was recognized as the most successful Asian American CEO on Wall Street. But that distinction came at great personal cost. A former superior filed a malicious $500 million lawsuit against me, although I was fully exonerated, having violated no laws. The intense legal and emotional burden nearly broke me. Between 1994 and 2004, I suffered 5 myocardial infarctions, heart attacks. In 2002, I stepped away from Silicon Valley. I sold my established high-tech company and began a different journey, one rooted not in corporate metrics, but in human understanding. I turned toward the study of psychology, focusing, particularly on behavioral and abnormal psychology, to explore the darker aspects of human nature. I then committed myself to philanthropic work for 9 years, supporting more than 200 orphans and over 50 abused women and adolescents. I did this not through a bureaucratic foundation, but directly, investing my own time, energy, compassion, and financial resources. In 2010, I encountered a new and profound health challenge. After living with type 2 diabetes for over 2 decades, I began experiencing advanced complications, including peripheral neuropathy, foot ulcer, and stage 3 or 4 chronic kidney disease. Physicians offered no cure, only ongoing monitoring and lifestyle modification. So, I returned to my scientific roots. I began self-studying internal medicine, data science, and systems physiology. Over the next 15 years, I authored more than 1,320 medical research papers, combining mathematical physics, engineering and material science principles, and biomedical modeling to analyze chronic diseases, such as type 2 diabetes, T2D, cardiovascular disease, CVD, chronic kidney disease, CKD, and various cancers. I developed what I now call the viscoplastic medical theory, VMT, a framework that models chronic disease as nonlinear, dynamic, plastic, and irreversible processes. Unlike traditional epidemiology, which relies heavily on statistical averages and cross-sectional analysis, the VMT model treats disease progression as a cumulative energy transformation problem, one governed by physical laws of stress, strain, and system elasticity and plasticity. In June 2025, I experienced a hemorrhagic stroke, an event I had not anticipated. I was born with low blood pressure, and had long assumed I was at low risk of stroke. However, I had overlooked 2 critical factors: aging. I am now 78 years old, and acute psychological stress from a complex real estate dispute, which spiked my blood pressure to 175 millimeters of mercury. When the stroke occurred, I immediately recognized the symptoms: tingling and numbness on the upper right side of my face, consistent with central nervous system insult. My years of self-study and dedicated medical research into metabolic risk factors and stroke pathophysiology had taught me to interpret these warning signs with urgency. 15 years ago, I deliberately purchased a residence, located just 10 minutes by car from Stanford University Hospital. I had always believed that proximity to world-class care could one day mean the difference between life and death. And on that day, June 21, 2025, it did. Following emergency treatment and survival, I resumed my medical research work, although I now experience some mild cognitive effects, such as delayed recall of names of streets or specific foods. I remain intellectually active. I continue to document my recovery journey, explore literature on neuroplasticity, learn 2 new languages in parallel, both Japanese and Spanish, and apply various commercial AI systems to support the verification of my medical judgments, mathematical and physical modeling, article editing, and result simulation tasks. Ironically, the same AI tools I helped enable through my early GPU development and semiconductor IC chip design work, from 1988 to 2002, are now supporting my recovery and scientific communication. And yet, when something fails, such as when a graph fails to render multilingual labels correctly, see attached graphic diagram, it reminds me of the importance of engineering precision. I often think to myself, 30 years ago, any engineer on my team who allowed this error to pass would have been terminated. But then I pause, and I smile, because the future is always built in layers. Some predictable, others unexpected. I contributed to the lower layers of this infrastructure, the mathematical algorithm, the software, the silicon, and the system design philosophies. The current generation of AI tools may still have flaws, but they also possess enormous data capacity, astonishing processing speed, adaptability, and transformational potential, just like grandchildren. So, even in the face of aging and illness, I continue to lead in medical research. I continue to write, teach, and model chronic disease in ways that may outlast me. Above all, I continue to serve, not for wealth, recognition, or power, but because there are still lives to be saved and still knowledge worthy of sharing. What we choose to learn, what we choose to share, and where we choose to stand. Especially in the moments that matter most, these are what define our legacy. Why I write. I do not write to seek approval from the medical establishment. I write to save lives. My work is not about professional recognition or academic prestige. It is about serving real people, patients, families, caregivers, whose lives depend on better understanding, earlier action, and more compassionate care. Over the past 30 years, I have lived through 5 heart attacks, kidney failure, neuropathy, type 2 diabetes, and a hemorrhagic stroke. In the face of uncertainty and limited treatment options, I turned to science, not to publish, but to survive. I began self-studying internal medicine, systems, physiology, data science, and math physical modeling. Over time, I developed the viscoplastic medical theory, VMT, to better reflect how chronic diseases behave in real life. Nonlinear, dynamic, plastic and often irreversible. I have written more than 1,320 medical research papers, using long-term, over a decade, personalized data, not just statistical averages. My goal is not to challenge medical professionals, but to complement their work with new insights and to remind all of us, myself included, what truly matters: the patient's health and life. If you are a doctor, professor, or healthcare professional reading this, I sincerely thank you for your dedication and compassionate service. You made a solemn vow, the Hippocratic Oath, to protect life, reduce suffering, and do no harm. That commitment has shaped generations of healing and care. Yet in today's complex healthcare system, it is easy to become overwhelmed by protocols, regulations, and system constraints. As a patient, I understand that. My hope is that my writing serves as a quiet reminder of why many of us entered this field. In the first place, not for power or position, but to help people live better, healthier, longer, and with dignity. I write for those who still believe in that mission, for patients looking for answers, for caregivers trying to understand, and for medical professionals who still feel the heartbeat behind every chart and diagnosis. This is not just academic. It is personal. It is human. It is my life's meaning and purpose. This is why I write.